Hello, everybody. My goodness, it's been a hot minute since I was here last. I'm well aware that, the amount of time that it's been since I recorded my last video. There are several reasons for that, and I will get into it a little bit later. But basically, I've had some house guests with me since April. I've been fortunate enough to have my daughter and her boyfriend staying here with me in the house for the summer, and it's been really wonderful having the company. But it has made it a lot harder to record videos and stay on top of this stuff. So that combined with everything that's been going on, everything that I've been doing to get myself through the recovery process and all that. You know, it's like I said, there's lots of things that have gone into the delay. Hopefully, I will manage to share a lot more videos about what that process has been like for me. Obviously, this is a continuation of my original Designing My Mental Health Journey video series that I had started back in February. And it certainly has been a journey. It's been long. Some of it has been extremely difficult and arduous, but here I am. It's July the 6th to be exact. And I've been really wanting for the past couple of weeks to come back on here, start giving you guys some updates, and, obviously start sharing some more stuff with you, because the whole point of this process for me, and the whole point behind the Designing My Mental Health Journey video series was to not only give you guys a glimpse into what it's like to actually suffer from some kind of mental illness, but also to share with you the things that I've been finding that have helped me, and even down to what some of the process has been like to work my way through the system in Eastern Health and that kind of thing. So, hopefully you'll get lots of value from this video. And there is lots and lots that I have to share because it's been so long. So I apologize if this one tends to be a little lengthy, but I do promise that if you stick with me through it, there should be a good amount of value in it for you by the time you reach the end. So, in addition to that, I will state that I do plan on giving away some free tips and tools and different things like that. So if you follow me through the end of the video, I'll let you know how you can access those. So, as I said, I know it's been a really long time since I recorded my last video. I think the last one that I did was the 17th of April. So it's been another 2.5 months or so since I recorded that video. There has been an awful lot going on in my life, and as it is with all of us. But thankfully, things have been going well for me, and I've been very, very dedicated to the process of recovery for myself. So there's lots on here that I want to share in terms of, what has helped me and stuff. It's interesting too, because I want to talk for a minute about, the reasons why it has taken me, some of the reasons why it's taken me so long to get back to this. I was actually asking myself that the other day because, like I said, for the past few weeks now, especially, I've been wanting to get back at this. And it was something that I had found myself really enjoying and getting a lot of value from, just for myself. So I really started to ask myself some questions around, why it's been so difficult for me to, stick to the process and be consistent. And I guess, one of the things that I have to say about that is that I guess as I've been going through the recovery process, I have been uncovering so much more about all the ways, that trauma has impacted me in my life. And, I had multiple forms of trauma when I was young. Not to go into them all here now, but obviously, and I've spoken about it before, that trauma it affects people in so many different ways. And often, even when we're the ones who are suffering from trauma or a trauma history, we are not even often aware of ourselves just how much that can and probably has impacted us in our lives up to now. And I think when I started asking myself the question about why it's taken me so long to, and I found it so difficult to stay consistent with this, is that consistency has been an issue for me over the course of my life. And I would add to that probably commitment as well. Not that I haven't been involved in things in over the course of my life that have been long term. I was in a relationship with my ex-husband for, about 18 years. We were married for 10. I've held jobs, particular jobs throughout my career that were 8 or 9 years in length at a time. So it's not necessarily so much that I haven't been able to commit to anything, but there are some aspects of my personality, that I've noticed over the years that where consistency and commitment, can become a problem. And ironically, I think one of the biggest, and I would love to hear, by the way, I would love for anybody to comment if this resonates with you at all. But it's interesting because one of the ways that I have found that I have struggled with consistency and commitment is in regards to myself. And so, there have been times in my life, like when I was training for the Tele 10, I managed to do that. And that was a very consistent process, and something I definitely had to commit to. But in terms of, choosing something for myself that was really beneficial to me, if it was time consuming, if it was energy consuming, I find historically when I look back, if there was something that I came across that or started that was more in alignment with my self-care and personal growth and that kind of thing. I think that that's one of the areas that I've struggled with the most in terms of consistency. So again, if that resonates with any of you, I'd love for anybody to acknowledge that. I'm sure it's not just me that I struggle with that, but like I said, it's something that I would rather come back and continue on than leave it permanently, because I do believe that there's so much benefit in it, in this process, not just for myself, but for you as well. So that's been interesting. So uh, I want to get into, a lot about what has been going on in my life. I want to take you through some of the things that I have found really helpful in my recovery. And there's lots of tips and tricks and stuff that I want to share with you guys as well. So the first thing I think I'm going to do is give you guys a bit of an update as to, my condition, what, my symptoms have been like, what the process has been like for me. So when it comes to the update, basically, I feel like I'm in a completely different place, thank goodness, than where I was, back in February and probably even in April. The process definitely has not been linear. Trying to make decisions when you are suffering from from the level of mental illness that I was back in February. Sometimes it can be a difficult process even to make decisions and that kind of thing. So for me, it's one of the most important things that I've done to get from where I was to where I am now is I had to make some really, really tough decisions about how I was going to approach this, what that was going to mean for me, and basically, um, yeah, those were tough decisions. So, the biggest thing I think I have to say about that, that has enabled me to progress as much as I have, is that I made a decision, and it was pretty early on, that I was going to be dedicated to my own recovery. And at that point, I had been so sick and I was suffering so much that I just, in a lot of ways, I almost feel like I didn't have a choice. My body and my mind and my spirit, every part of me was basically, that all made the decision for me. I didn't feel like I had a choice. I had to make a decision that I was going to recover, and I was going to have to commit myself, ironically, to whatever that meant for me. And so, it did involve some difficult decisions. I had to step away from my job. I had to, there was a lot involved with it. I had to step away from, basically, I had to try to eliminate any stress that was in my life, which, as you know, can be very difficult to do. But it is possible, and I was committed to that. And I have to say, I'm proud of myself for sticking with it like I have. Um, I had to remove some relationships from my life. I had to step away from some of the toxic parts of some of my relationships, and that can be challenging. But at the end of the day, when you're like I said, when you're suffering as much as I was, sometimes you have to do those things for yourself. So making that decision to step away from work, to try to eliminate any stress that I had in my life, as much as I could possibly. Those are major things that I did. And on top of that, I just got really, really focused in on whatever I had to do to get myself through the process. And so, it's a big thing when you have to step away basically from your life and your responsibilities, and even sometimes your habits, sometimes even your family. Uh, it can be a very difficult thing to do, but at the end of the day, it's so important. Like our health and well-being has to come first, and basically we're no good to anybody if we're sick. And I was certainly in a place where I needed to do that. So there has been an awful lot that's been happening over the last few months. Like I said, I've had house guests since April. I've been very focused on recovery. I've still been continuing on with the counseling. That has been really, really beneficial for me. It's not always one of those things where you go into every session and you just get so much out of every session, and you work out like, it's not a linear process. So that's something that I think it's really important for people to understand, because I don't think anybody enters into counseling and it's like a miracle cure, and everything just gets resolved in a short amount of time. But having the ability to share your thoughts and concerns and observations, with somebody who is, uh, trained to do that, I have found that very, very beneficial. And I've learned so I feel like I've learned so much throughout about myself throughout that process. And that's a journey that I'm very interested in continuing for, as long as I feel like I need it, and as long as it's beneficial to me. So I'm really glad about that. Another thing that I've been involved with over the last little while is is something called a family care group. And that is something that I became involved with um, through Eastern Health again, and it was something I pursued. There's lots about that I don't necessarily want to get into, but um, basically it's a group that helps people deal with mental health and addictions. And there's a certain group of people that I've been working with, within that group that are, struggling from different issues and things that, things related to the same things I've been. And that process has been really, really beneficial as well. So that's a 10-week program. And we're already probably, I think, 6 sessions in. So that's been great. And I had mentioned before in one of my previous videos that I've also been set up to go through the trauma program. And that's something I'm really, really excited about, because I feel like, that's going to take me to a whole new level in terms of, recovery and healing and that kind of thing. So that trauma program for me is actually coming in September. So I have an appointment next week. There's an intake assessment that has to be done. And again, I'm really looking forward to that, because once you start to delve into this stuff and you start to learn so much about yourself and how you've been impacted over the years, and I mean, I don't claim to be, I'm not the only one that struggles with life issues and stuff. We all deal with those things, but I want to keep sharing the message of how important it is to recognize and acknowledge when, if you are suffering from trauma, if you've had, traumatic events in your past, and you feel like, there would be some benefit to be gained from pursuing some healing options and stuff. It's really important that you do that. And I'm so grateful that this whole process, as painful and difficult as it's been, I'm really, in some ways, I'm so grateful that this has happened to me, because what it's forced me to do has just brought me to such a whole new level of insight about myself, insight about what systems and the programs are that are available, the resources that are available, and just how much healing can occur when we become really focused and dedicated to it. So I'm really grateful for that. Uh, I did deal with some other issues over the past few months. My mom ended up, unfortunately, getting really sick. She was hospitalized at one point, and she's now she actually had to be moved into a senior's home. But that's been a positive. At the end of the day, she's doing a lot better, thank goodness. And I think that's been a positive move, as difficult as it can be. And I know some of you can relate to that. So yeah, there's been like a whole lot going on. But in terms of my own recovery, thank goodness my sleep has improved dramatically. I have, the symptoms, the PTSD symptoms that I was suffering from for months have thankfully subsided. I I feel like I have very few triggering events now. Not that, all of that stuff still isn't there, but it's like anything else, right? It's a management thing. And so I've learned so much about, how to better manage those things, how to separate myself from stress, how to do my self-care. And, there's lots of other things that have gone into that. But when it comes to my sleep, when it comes to the PTSD symptoms, a lot of the physical ailments that I had been struggling with have subsided, thank goodness. And so all of that has been really, really positive. The one thing, and I'm not currently taking any medications. The only medication that I take every now and then now, only when I need it. There's one that I had before, and there's a new one that I added, so I'll get into that. But basically, the one piece that has gotten worse over the past few months has been my digestive issues. And so I probably mentioned it early on in some of my videos that I had been struggling with some digestive issues. But basically, throughout the course, I think so much stress, my body was dealing with so much stress for such an extended period of time that I got to the point, even, throughout the last couple of months, that my digestive system basically just shut down. And so, again, it's been very challenging. I've had some really, really painful events. I ended up having to go back to the doctor and get some more testing and stuff done. I still have some tests outstanding that I need to do. But again, I had to make some adjustments and start really seriously looking at how am I going to fix this? Like what do I need to do? And take responsibility in order to make myself feel better and for things to start working the way that they're supposed to. So again, eliminating the stress, I've had to take a really, really hard look at my diet. I tried out the FODMAP. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that, but I tried out that FODMAP diet for a few days. Thankfully, I had already determined, just from previous experience, some of the things that I could eat and some that I couldn't. So things like fried foods, and it's unique to each individual. So if you struggle from any kind of digestive issues, for me, I think I can pretty much sum it up to either I suffer from irritable bowel syndrome or irritable bowel. It's probably gotten to a point now where it's IBD, which is irritable bowel disease. But anyways, you got to take the positives out of it. And I've been very, very focused on my diet, my eating habits. I slip every now and then and I have something that I probably shouldn't, but I'm getting a much more clearer picture around what I can eat and what I definitely can't. And one of the things that I've been doing in order to not just heal my digestive issues, but also, just trying to improve my overall health and wellness, is that I've been attempting to go vegan. And so, again, that's been a bumpy ride. It definitely hasn't been linear, but I'm giving myself the space to, transition into it at my own pace. And that's perfectly fine. And it's been a real learning curve for me, just like everything else. Um, you have to give yourself some time and space in order to be able to try to learn a new lifestyle. So, the veganism has been great. I will say, I know everybody has the typical reaction, when they think about veganism. It's like, oh my God, no, I'm not giving up, different things. And listen, there's still some things that I have not, given up. I still love my boiled eggs. I still love, a scramble with some, spinach and vegetables and stuff in it. But I am learning new recipes. I'm learning new ways of cooking. My cupboards and my refrigerator are starting to look very different from the way that they used to. And, when it comes to the benefits, I will say it's absolutely amazing, because the way that I feel when I'm eating vegan as opposed to not, there's no comparison. I find and again, I can only speak for me, but I find my body is more satiated. I don't get as hungry. Um, you know, I have lots of energy. I sleep well. My digestive system works so much better. Um, it's just right across the board. And so, and the other thing I find that's interesting about it is when I am eating vegan, I find that I crave sweets a lot less. So that's an interesting piece there, and it has been for me, because overall, like I said, it's not just been about fixing my digestive issues. It's not just about improving my overall mental health and well-being. And my physical health and well-being. But also, I've been very interested in trying to lose some weight and get back to a healthier body as well. And so I just feel like there's so many benefits in it, and it's something that I've been kind of messing around with for the past few years and thinking about. So this again, it's always the struggle that kind of drives us to progress in positive ways. So that's something that I've been trying to do over the past. It's probably been a month or so now since I had a really, really bad episode of IBD. And I mean, it was bad. Like I got to the point where I was scared to eat anything. I spent night after night after night. I was, struggling with not just heartburn and indigestion, but I had really bad acid reflux. I would lay in the bed every night and I would feel like I had, food up in my throat. Like it was really bad. And so, again, it's just been such an interesting process. But at the end of the day, I feel like it's all positive. It's all things that I was wanting to do anyways. And the other thing that I've been really trying to do is increase my water intake. So, and that's been helping me out quite a bit as well. And the one other thing I'm going to point out, I want to mention about that is, um, and I know, I've seen lots of people take this before, but um, I actually, throughout the process, I ended up having to try Metamucil. And I don't know if anybody out there is familiar with that, but man, oh man, that has saved me. It has done so much for me in terms of my digestive health. So, if you're struggling with any kind of irritable bowel syndrome or anything like that, digestive issues, give it a try. It's not something I'm not doing it every day. I did for a little bit until I got myself straightened out a bit. But in order to give my intestines and everything else a chance to heal, it's definitely something that I plan to continue taking. And of course, it's under the advice of my doctor too. I've had discussions with her about that. But thankfully, like I said, that's done a lot for me. So, moving on past that. So, I wanted to get into a little bit about the self care, some of the self care stuff that I've been doing that I feel has really helped me to, move in the right direction in terms of my mental health and stuff. And there's just been so much. I highly doubt I'm going to be able to cover it all here today because, like I said, it's been such a long time since I was on. But um, I think it's really important to be able to share this information. So basically, when it comes to, like I said, the first thing that I did was step away from stress. I removed any kind of stress that I could from my life, tried to minimize that as much as possible. I've been really focused on my sleep over the past few months. Excuse me. So what that looked like for me, in the past, I was always pretty regimented in terms of what my thoughts and opinions were about getting up early and, trying to make the most of the day and having a schedule and all that. And listen, I stick by those beliefs. My grandmother always used to say, early to bed and early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. And I still live by that. I still believe in it very strongly. But I've also recognized how important it is to remain flexible throughout this process. And what that has looked like for me, over the past few months is that if I wake up in the morning and I don't feel like I've gotten enough sleep, I let myself get more. I have, really been trying to learn how to go easier on myself, allow myself a little bit more in terms of the self-care piece. And so sleep is something that it's just so critical to the recovery process. And even now, there's nights that I just feel like if I need it, I could be getting 8, 10, sometimes even 12 if I need it. I don't anticipate that that's going to continue forever. As I slowly work my way back into work now and, trying to focus in on the different things that I need to, obviously I have to, make that shift again back into a more regular routine. But I do feel like that's been a major part of my recovery process has been allowing myself to sleep when I need to. Uh, the diet, I've already talked about that. Nutrition has been such an important piece of this journey. I can't stress enough, how much food impacts us in our daily lives. It's not just about your physical health. It's not just about weight. It's everything. And I feel so strongly about that because I've witnessed it for myself over the past, especially over the past few months, and trying to move into veganism and stuff. Like I just feel so much better, when I'm paying attention and being aware of what I'm putting in my body and making conscious decisions about that. Exercise again has been, I've continued with that and it continues to be a major piece. Um, I've started a couple of new things. I've actually been getting into a little bit of something called Vinyasa Yoga. And basically, there's some information I'll share about that a little bit later in the video, but that has been really, really helpful for me. Uh, I try to get out walking as much as I can when I can and when the weather is fit. And I also have a treadmill, when the weather's not. But we've done lots of, myself and my daughter and her boyfriend have been doing lots of different hikes and stuff around the East Coast Trail. That's been fantastic. Um, the fresh air, the exercise, again, I can't recommend it enough. Taking meds when necessary, so there were times, lots of times early on when I really had to, uh, give up my notions about the whole medication piece and do what I had to do. Um, but it has been pretty consistent that over the course of this process, um, I've only taken it when I felt I really needed to, and I've remained very committed to doing what I can naturally, to try to alleviate those problems. So if it was, the PTSD symptoms, if it was the digestive issues, if it was physical ailments, I gave in and took medications when I felt like I had to, but I've also been very dedicated to, trying to find ways, natural ways to improve those things. And my experience, I'm thankful because I don't believe that that's necessarily the case for everybody. Um, but for me, I'm very grateful that there does seem to have been a lot of options available to me in terms of things that I could do naturally, and I've been fortunate enough that when I practice those things consistently, I find the need for medication kind of goes away. So again, I'm grateful for that. A couple of other pieces that I've been focused on in terms of my recovery has been gardening. I got into, and I've been wanting to do this for a long time as well, but I started getting into growing a lot of my own herbs and different things like that. I'm very, very interested, both now and hopefully in the future, in terms of growing my own food. I'm very interested in self sustainability. So, um, and obviously, it's about not just about saving money, but also, it's better for our health and stuff too. So, that's been going really well. I'm really happy with that. I've got lots of stuff growing, lots of herbs and stuff doing really well. And some of it you try it out and you don't have so much success, but it's a learning curve. And I plan to continue on with that. I really enjoy it. There's something about gardening. There's something about working, with the earth and getting your hands in the dirt. I find very soothing, very healing, and very calming. So I think that that's a pretty common one anyway. I talked about the elimination of stress, and again, I can't stress enough how important and how critical that's been for me. The self-care piece, so those are all things that I did for myself throughout this process. And I also want to talk about some of the external things that I've been using to help myself in the recovery process as well. Um, so, again, the counseling has been very beneficial, the family care group. Um, Something that I actually started doing throughout my recovery process. I talked before about how I've been into research and trying to find different things, to different healing modalities and different things like that. And one of the things that I started doing was I started following a young lady by the name of Isabel Page. And she has lots of videos on YouTube. And I don't know, just something about following her and watching her lifestyle. So, just to quickly explain it, she had been working and living in the city. She found, she wasn't happy. It was kind of, she found it kind of soul sucking, like so many of us do. And so she had started to save up her money, and she ended up building herself a tiny home on a farm on some land that her parents had purchased in the mountains. I think she's somewhere in Washington. And basically, she is very much interested in the whole self sustainability thing as well. And so, she lives in this tiny house and she spends so much of her time outside. She is vegan. And so, I've been learning it, just everything she does resonated with me so much. Basically, I started following her, and I found her videos very, very helpful. Learning lots of vegan recipes from her, and just it really kind of helped me hone in on the kind of lifestyle I think that I'm really, really interested in. And so yeah, it's the funniest places you can get healing and help from. But that one was definitely a big one for me. And she's also, by the way, the one who started to get me into the Vinyasa yoga. So down below, I'm going to share some links to some different resources that I found helpful, and I will continue. I will add a link down below to the morning yoga routine that I've been practicing, that she put out, and I really, really enjoy it. So, yeah, so another really big piece that I wanted to talk about on here in terms of my own recovery and some of the really difficult decisions that I've had to make. One of the ones that I haven't gotten to talk to everybody about yet is the fact that I did have to make the decision in conjunction with my doctor that I wasn't going to be able to return to my job. So, again, that kind of thing is never an easy decision to make. It was work I really enjoyed. There was so much about the position that I really liked. Everything from the management aspect to working with the staff, the residents, taking care of the residents, and being an advocate for them and everything else. There were so many bits and pieces that meant so much to me about that position. But I also had to recognize, it's so important to recognize your own limitations. And when when I had to look back and see how sick I had gotten, um, and knowing that so much of that stress and where I ended up was job related, it's unfortunate, but I got to the point where, like I said, your health and well being has to come first. And there was no way I could see, going back to a position that had the potential to make me so sick. And so, I'm sure lots of people, will have lots of opinions about that and everything else. But listen, at the end of the day, you got to take care of you, because nobody else is going to. And, it wasn't an easy decision. It still is hard for me. Financially, it's been a struggle. But again, in terms of trying to separate myself from stress and anxiety, it's just something I've had to shelve. And so, the financial piece obviously is not where I want it to be. But my mental and physical health and well being has improved so, so much over the past few months that, like I said, it's really forced me to make some difficult decisions. So, yeah, so I ended up having to leave that position. I've had a really hard time trying to get transitioned over from sick benefits to regular benefits. It's actually taken me over a month to get transitioned over. But thankfully, I was contacted by Service Canada, yes, just yesterday, and advised that that claim is going to be approved. So again, that's something I'm really, really grateful for, because I haven't actually had any money coming in now since the end of May. And as you can imagine, especially, for me, being somebody who's always been so focused on my finances and the stability and the certainty and the security and all that, um, there's just sometimes that life, pushes you in a different direction and lets you know that this is not going to work. So I feel like I've done a really good job of, shelving that and not focusing on it so much, because I've known throughout the process that, when the time came, I was going to, be able to be healthy enough to, do what I needed to do in order to survive. And, I feel like I'm in that transition period again now, trying to find ways to get back to work and generate income for myself. But at the same time, you can have all the wealth in the world, but if you're not healthy, it doesn't mean much. And so it is what it is. But I'm grateful that things seem to be working out in some way, shape, or form. Um, so one of the things that I wanted to talk a little bit about as well, in terms of, because my healing journey very much continues, right? So it's not just, and I never expected this to be a simple process, or I never had any preconceived notions about what kind of a time limit there was going to be on the recovery process. So I continue to do that, and I plan to continue, for a really long time, just because I don't think, I think our health is a continuum, right? Like, it's not something that we just, we do something one day and that's it, then that's fixed forever. I think that our lifestyle and our health and well-being has to be something that we're focused on a continuous basis. And so in an effort to, continually improve my health and try to, continue to improve all aspects basically of my life. Something I started doing recently is I started a new morning routine. And so, even though, like I said, there's days I haven't attached a time to it where I have to get up, or wake at a certain hour. I still do typically wake up very early in the morning because, when you've been doing that for most of your life, you build an internal clock. Um, but this new morning routine, I've been doing it now for about a week, and I'm really, really finding it interesting. So this is actually one of the things that I want to share with you guys, and I will make that available as soon as I get it on paper, in a form that I can share. But basically, the way that it looks is that I I typically, wake up, try to do some meditation. Um, there are so many benefits to meditation, and I mean, listen, I've been practicing that. That's one of the pieces that I've been really trying to hone in on over the past few months since February, because any grounding techniques have been very helpful. So, like I said, meditation is something I've been doing for a while, but this new morning routine begins with the meditation process, because I try to set an intention for my practice. I give myself lots of space and room to do it poorly, but I heard something the other day on a video that I really liked, and that was that you're doing meditation properly when you find it challenging. And so I think that there's a lot of truth in that, and I think that anybody who's practiced it, has experienced how difficult it can be, because you're basically trying to teach yourself to sit and do nothing. But there's so much value tied up in it, And one of the things that really pushed me to start doing that, meditation and yoga and that kind of thing, is over the past few months, I've noticed that there have been times when my blood pressure has really been spiking, and that led to some headaches and different things. So the meditation, is just for me, it's a no-brainer, and I think that, like I said, there's so many benefits attached to it that that's just one more reason to be doing that. So I try to do my meditation. I try to one of the things that I've added to my routine is, and this is something I've added recently, is I was listening to a gentleman by the name of Joe Dispenza, and he talks about how our reality is created by the thoughts, obviously, that we think. I don't think that's news to anybody at this point. But something he added kind of a different element for me in terms of that whole thing, because he talks about how it's our focus on our current problems that continues to generate the same problems in our lives. And so one of the things that I've been trying to learn through his processes is about trying to focus your thoughts more on the future that you want. Because, and historically, it makes so much sense to me, because historically I can look back and I can see how the majority of my day was spent on problems, thinking about problems, focusing on problems. Yes, trying to look for solutions and stuff, but at the same time, when the majority of your brain power is being used to focus energy into your problems, obviously that's not going to create a different, a different outlook for the future. And so I actually forced myself last week to sit down and create what I call a my future snapshot. So I use that every morning as a part of my regular routine to sit down and review what I actually want that future to look like, and I try to project myself into that future mentally. And it's been really interesting, I have to say, because the irony of it all, and I think that this is a really valuable piece here that I'm really hoping people will pay attention to. The irony in it all is that we all seem to love so much focusing in on our problems and being in a particular emotional state every day. And it becomes habitual, right? Like it ends up developing, we develop habitual, neural pathways, in terms of we tend to go to the same emotion all the time. And something that I'm really getting out of making this a new practice for myself is that I've started to realize that the more time I spend focusing my thoughts on the future that I want, that's where all the juice is. That's where all the positive feelings are. Because when you can project yourself into the future that you want, you start to feel a lot better, because that's, being able to experience those emotions, without actually being there yet, is something that we really do have the power to control. And so, besides focusing on gratitude, that's a part of my daily morning practice. I always try to hone in on gratitude and things that I'm really grateful for and I feel good about. But there's something really magical about tapping into the positive emotions that are attached to your future desires. And that's something that I'm getting so much value from it. I plan on continuing to do that, because the way that he explains it is that as you tend to do that more and more over, throughout your days, you begin to develop new neural pathways. And when you spend more time in those positive emotions, what you're actually doing is create, not just creating that new reality, but you're actually spending time mentally and emotionally in that new reality, that's going to create more of that. So that's kind of, it kind of goes back to the whole idea behind law of attraction, because when we're creating our own reality all the time. And so if you spend so much time focused on the future that you want to create, then the chances of you being able to create that reality are so much greater. So that's been a really interesting part of that practice for me. Um, Another new one that I've really started to get a lot of benefit from is in um, something that I learned from a lady called by the name of Marissa Peer, and she practices rapid transformational therapy, and basically she does a lot of hypnotherapy and that kind of thing, but she's very, very skilled at it and very experienced at it. And one of the things that I've learned from her recently has been about learning to compliment yourself. And so, one of the things that we all have a tendency to do so much is, we spend a lot of time, typically, being hard on ourselves. In our internal dialogue is often so negative and so judgmental, towards ourselves. And so one of the things that she recommended was to start complimenting yourself. And as cheesy as that may sound, I've actually been finding that there's a lot of benefit in it. Um, and so I've been practicing that a little bit lately, and there really is something to it, because the more I find that you do it, the more you start to benefit from it, and you start to feel a little bit different about yourself. So she claims that there's no praise like self praise, and it's not about egotism. It's not about arrogance or anything like that. It's just about learning to acknowledge and appreciate yourself on a whole new level. And I think for so many of us, that's something that we so rarely do. Um, so again, I'll share all these little tips and pieces with you once I get that sample created, and I'll provide a link. But this morning routine has actually been working out quite well for me. Uh, Another piece of that has been about being present and recognizing that everything you really want is available to you, but only in this moment. And so, even though I've talked about being focused on your thoughts of the future that you want, also recognizing at the same time that being able to be present in this moment and be able to um, recognize that everything that you want is available to you, but this moment is that all that you have. And so, I've studied that a little bit before, because there's a book by Eckhart Tolle called The Power of Now. And throughout the years, in my self-help journey, it's something that I have become familiar with before. But I think it's part of the meditation, right? That's been helping me to hone in on that a little bit more. And so, I've definitely made that a part of my morning practice. Um, so another big one that I've been finding is has been really helpful is, and I'm pretty sure that this comes from the trauma background as well, but I've one of the things that I've found myself doing over the years is I have had a little bit of a habit of catastrophizing. It comes from various different elements of trauma, but uh, the worry and catastrophizing has been something I feel like has had a major impact on me over the years. And so it's something that I've been really making a conscious effort to do something about in terms of making changes. So one of the things that I've been practicing around that and trying to install some different habits is it's called reframing. And so I've been I've been actually pretty successful in being able to recognize when I start having those thoughts, and I've been trying to develop different practices around um, reframing those thoughts and things to eat. Sometimes even if it's a distraction, so I can if I find myself that thinking those thoughts or catastrophizing or worrying a lot, You know, sometimes it can even come down to something as simple as having a little mantra that you can use. And so one of mine, especially, you know, when it comes to my children, because, you know, for any parents out there, you know, I'm sure you understand how easy it is to be, you know, consumed by worry when it comes to your kids and how they're doing and stuff. So, and you know, for me, it's been one of the things that I have spent many sleepless nights, you know, about in the past. So, one of the mantras that I've been using to try to, um, you know, reframe those thoughts or move away from those thoughts has just been something as simple as, nope, everybody is healthy, happy, you know, wealthy and wise. And so just making that statement, and I know it sounds, you know, really cheesy and simple, but it really does work, because as soon as I, you know, use that mantra, it kind of distracts me away from those thoughts, and it kind of reminds me to start thinking, you know, in terms of gratitude or about, you know, something really positive that puts me in a different direction. So that's been really helpful. Um, Another piece that I've added to my morning routine, and I mean, these, it sounds like a lot, but these are all things that take a really, you know, short amount of time, is that I try to give myself one reason every day why I deserve to succeed. And so I have a little journal that I keep on my bed, and every day, you know, when I go to write my goals and intentions for the day, you know, when I'm finished that, I try to give myself one reason why I deserve to succeed. Because again, you know, I think we're so programmed to doubt our self-worth and our abilities, and you know, we question whether or not we're worthy of, you know, all the things that we want for ourselves and our lives. And so that's been, you know, I think that that's been a really positive practice for me as well, is you know, trying to think of all the reasons why I feel like I do deserve to succeed and to do well. So my future snapshot sheet, I will create a sample of that and share that link. Um, the morning routine, you know, I'm gonna create a sample of that, and I'll share that as well. Um, and yeah, so the I guess the other piece is some of those vegan recipes and stuff that I've been you know, I've been learning and trying out. I'm only going to share the ones that I've been finding really really good and tasty and you know, fairly simple to make and that kind of thing. Um, but I do think it would be beneficial for you guys, for anybody who's wanting to try it. You know, there are tons and tons available online, but I'll certainly make add some links to those as well down below. So, you know, I know that that's a lot. I wanted to cover, you know, a lot in this video because it's been such a long time, but hopefully, you know, everybody got some value from it. And I will be sharing lots of information down below, and, you know, hopefully in future videos. I do plan to continue this process and, you know, continue to share the things that I'm learning as I go along. And hopefully some of you will follow along with me on that. And if there's anything that, you know, you find resonates with you from watching this video, or any questions that you might have, or comments or tips that you want to share, I'd certainly love to hear them. So don't be afraid to share those. So I think that's about it for now. I'm gonna sign off, and like I said, I'll share lots of tips and stuff down below. And if you want to follow this video series, I've now not only am I going to be sharing it on my Facebook Forward Coaching page, but I've also started a YouTube channel, and you can go over there and check out all the videos. Will be in one spot as well. So thanks for following along with me today. I hope you're all doing well and enjoying the nice weather when we get it. And hopefully we'll see you soon. Thanks. Bye for now.